I'll call to order the meeting of the Plan and Zone Commission for the City of Davenport, April 20th, 2021. We are having a partially electronic meeting due to the COVID-19 pandemic, so some of our members will be participating by video. I will start with our combined public hearing and regular meeting agenda and call to order our public hearing agenda. Commissioner Tallman, would you call the roll?
Yes, thank you. Hello, thank you. Schneider.
Here.
Lammers.
Present.
Johnson.
Present.
Tallman present. Ingram's excused. Hepner.
Here.
Bransgard. Excused. Reinhardt.
Here.
Manus.
Here.
And Garrington.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Tallman. We have no old business. For new business, we have one case, case number REZ 21-02, request of Belzer Ventures LLC for a zoning map amendment to rezone 1320 West Kimberly Road from C2 Corridor Commercial to C3 General Commercial District to allow heavy retail of commercial electronic components containing 5.37 acres, more or less, in Ward 7. Staff.
Scott Copes with Neighborhood Development. This property, this subdivision for it is called Old Case, so if those people have been around a little bit, it's of the former Case site. It's next to the Popeyes. So the second slide, we show the zoning map of the area. So this property has 7 zonings near it, 7 different categories represented. We have R3, R4, C1, C2, CT, and institutional campus along with multiple family. This site, of course, is zoned R2. So we're going from a C2, and we're going to be zoning it to a C3. Now, one thing that people might, if you're familiar with our old code, we're not using the same system, even though there are similar numbers. So the previous code C2 was much more permissive than our existing C2. So they're not comparable, just for reference. The second zoning map we have, it just kind of, it's zoomed back a little bit. Well, the other thing I can mention is the Davenport 25 is residential general. And on the next slide, this is the zoning map, kind of zoom back out a little bit. So you can see the mall is way on the right-hand side, and you've got the other developments in here. They're also C3. This is C3 over by the auto dealers, Lujac's. So that's the nearest C3 that's around. There's also the C3 at KSI is C3 there. There's C2 further to the west on Locust. There's C2 across the street at Popeyes. There's C1 to the north at the post office. So are some of the zoning districts around, but I did want to just give you a flavor for what the area is. So on the next slide, the purpose statement for C2, this is the existing zoning that's there right now. Basically, it's for commercial corridors oriented toward a mix of retail, personal service, and office uses, along with arterial streets and collector streets. But the focus of this is it's a pedestrian-oriented environment, and it's meant to be a place where it's walkable. That's what the C2 is supposed to be zoned for. And then what they're proposing to zone this property is C3 general commercial. And that's a higher intensity commercial development is typically found in a C3 with both local and regional markets. And also C3, it typically has a lot of parking, kind of synonymous with the big box realty, which is kind of what the old Case building is like. So next slide. We have the Davenport 2035, as we mentioned on the other map. It was residential general. Things to note that that's not it's a mixed use as well. And towards the edge of these areas, there are areas that have mixed use density, and they mix commercial with residential. So this may or may not have to be changed should this request be approved. That'll be something we'll analyze in our staff report, whether we can keep the existing residential general or whether we think we should move it forward, to something more commercial. But that'll be something we'll address later. So the petitioner is here before us today. As the request states, it's retail sales. If this was just retail sales only, without any outside storage, we wouldn't be here today. They could go in and do business today and open up. The problem is, or the situation is, that the applicant has some generators that they lease and or sell, and those by fire code have to be stored outside. And so they're proposing a 50 by 50 solid fenced in area enclosure in which to keep those generators. They also would put some conduit in there as well. And so because they have that outside component, that triggers the rezoning from C2 to C3. And additionally, with that zoning, they would have to go to the Zoning Board of Adjustment and get a special use, which would allow them to have a heavy retail operation in a C3. So there would be more review specific to what exactly going on, as well as the rezoning. And slide 7, this kind of shows you the area that the petitioner has leased potentially for 3E. It's in this red box area here. And towards the north of the map is this red box here, and that's where the 50 by 50 area would be for storage outside with the 6-foot solid fence enclosure. This is a little bit more detail about the actual building. I know I had a call this morning, and there was questions about what other leased space there were in the area. So this kind of shows you that the blue area is 3E. The red there is the blood bank. That's going to stay the same. And these other entities are remaining the same as well. So that the petitioner can kind of get into more detail there, because I don't know exactly which area is represented, but it's existing at present. The next slide talks about our public input. We've done all of our typical and required neighborhood notices. We've put a notice in the newspaper. We've done a neighborhood meeting. The paper, was published on May 10, and our neighborhood meeting was the 12th, and today is the 20th. And so at this time, we haven't received any written comments, but I did receive one phone call where questions were asked about the case. And of course, this is a public hearing, so there are no recommendations at this time. However, we're collecting data from our various sources, and we'll have that ready for you in 2 weeks.
All right, thank you very much. Before we open the public hearing, does anyone on the commission have questions for staff? Yes, okay, Mr. Tolman.
Thank you. Scott, with the neighborhood meeting, how many people were in attendance there? Was it well attended? Or?
It's been a while since I looked at that. I think we had at least 13 or so. So there was definite turnout for it, and there was good conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And I think the staff report, I don't have a staff report in front of me, but the staff report does summarize the issues that were brought up at that meeting.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else on the commission have questions for staff? All right, thank you. I'll now open this for the applicant. Is there a representative of Belser Ventures who would like to speak?
Sorry. Good evening, everybody. Tom Pasternak on behalf of Belser Ventures, which is the landlord, who would very much like a tenant to this building. So the issue is we found a tenant 3E. Mr. Armstrong here is the proposed tenant. And more importantly, he'll talk to you about just exactly what he does and how he does it, because I think the neighborhood and you as the commission need to know just exactly what we're intending to put in this building. So the bottom line, I think, is what Scott had indicated, was that this issue about having and selling our inventory outside storage, is really the sole reason that we're here. The other issues in terms of what Mr. Armstrong and 3E does is all a permissible use. So in reality, we can talk about this till the cows come home, but the focus is, at least as it relates to the request to go to C3, is because of that rectangular red box up there. So that's really the key issue, and unfortunately, we can't keep it in the building. So it's kind of one of those, catch-22 issues that the only way this can be done is by doing it exactly the way in which we're doing it. So in any event, I don't want to belabor the point. The issue really comes down to, in terms of the way the new code now reads, because I think in the old days, we would have been able to do this as C2 without any problem and maybe have to go get a variance with ZBA, okay? Now, because of the new code, we have to come back and we have to ask for this amendment. So the bottom line here is, from our perspective, that when you hear about heavy retail, you think about maybe it's a Walmart or a Menards or something that's going to have lots of trucks and lots of cars and lots of employees, and we're going to have major congestion and whatever else the case may be that would cause alarm when you hear heavy retail. But in reality, I'm now going to introduce Mr. Armstrong. He'll tell you just exactly what his business is, and after you listen to what he does, how he does it, and what his intentions are to do with leasing this building, I think you'll find that his use is actually a less intense use than what you would expect. And in fact, would have been a less intense use than Kay's merchandise was. So with that in mind, Mr. Armstrong, please. Thank you. Our proposed tenant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ralph Armstrong, and I'm the location manager for 3E here in Davenport. We are about a 100-year-old Iowa company. We've been here in the Quad Cities since the mid-90s, located just down the road on 5th Street in Pershing. We currently right now have to lease 3 different locations in order to conduct our business. So the goal is to get under one roof. We want to stay in Davenport. That's important to us and important to our customers. So what we are is a retailer of electrical supplies. We sell the materials that you would use to construct a house, lights for a commercial building, automation for an industry. We also sell generators for homes and for businesses. So we have about 20 employees on average. Some of our employees don't even actually come into the office most days. We are primarily business to business. Most of our customers, we actually are going to go out and deliver to them. We do have a retail sales floor that people can come in and purchase, but the majority of our customers are going to utilize our delivery service, and that's one of the things that sets us apart. One way to picture us is if you've ever been to Menards or Home Depot or Lowe's and you see that little desk off to the side that says Pro Desk, that's us without the rest of the store. So, or that desk, if you know what you want and you're buying in bulk, you come to us. But we also will sell to the person off the street that wants to buy a dimmer for their house, but they're not exactly sure which one they need because lights have changed so quickly. Which dimmer do I need for these lights? So we like to think that we offer a service level that differentiates us from the others. In terms of traffic, because that is a question that comes up, we would have much, much less traffic than you would in a typical retail location because so much of our business is delivery. We typically have 2 to 3 delivery drivers that will load up their orders in the morning and be gone throughout eastern Iowa and western Illinois all day long. In terms of deliveries, we get asked about incoming deliveries. We average about 5 incoming deliveries a day. Of that, 2 that are almost always consistent are UPS and FedEx. And my understanding from the landlord is those same companies are already coming to service that property. So we're looking at a potential increase of 3 to 4 trucks per day, but that's almost always what's called less than truckload services, LTL. because there's not a lot of those that service the Quad City market, my guess would be a lot of those are probably already going to that location to service the businesses that are already there. Any questions I can help you with, or?
Does the commission have any questions?
Commissioner, I have a question.
All right, please go ahead, Commissioner Lammers.
Thank you. Could you educate me on why the generators can't be stored in your building?
Thank you, that's a good question. These are lease generators, so these are used in a situation where a facility has either a planned or an unplanned power outage. So these are they have motors in them, gasoline motors, so they'll have diesel motors. So they'll have fuel in them, so they cannot be stored inside that building.
Understanding that in the location you have them, do they cause a safety issue for surrounding properties?
No, because they're not run they're run at the location of the person who's lost power. So at our location, they're stored in a yard.
But the storage wouldn't cause an issue for leaks or fumes or anything like that?
No, it would be like parking your car in your garage. It'd be analogous to that.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Thank you very much then.
Thank you for your time.
All right. At this point, I'll open the public hearing and ask, are there any members of the public who would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Anyone? Okay, yes, please come forward. Come to the podium and give us your name, please.
And if you could please make sure you talk loudly and up towards the square in the ceiling so that everyone can hear you through the microphone.
I'm Beth Dunn. I live at 3927 Fillmore Lane, so my property is a clear view. I would say the landlord so far has done a very good job of being a neighbor, installing lights and security cameras. I think our major thing was the traffic coming in and who was coming in, and I think they've spoken to that. I think they've agreed to put up a fence. And I think that would probably solve most of the issues. They can put up a fence and maintain it and put landscaping on their side. I think that would help us with our homes and what we see. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. Anyone else to speak in favor of this proposal or have questions? Anyone to speak in opposition? All right, come back, please.
Hi, I'm Maureen Mahoney. I live at 4006 North Fillmore. I can look down in the parking lot. I'm not really speaking in opposition. I should have maybe come when you said questions. But I'm speaking with concern, because I don't know things. My concerns about this, because I was highly involved in the Murphy's trucking, because some people are probably still left in that, right? No?
Speak again. I have a hard time hearing with all the
crazy
masks.
I said that I was highly involved when Murray's Trucking tried to come in there with a warehouse complex in our neighborhood. And then planning and zoning said you can't do that. So I have concerns, and I need more understanding. I guess I'd like to reiterate what my neighbor said here. I think the current landlord in there has been spectacular. And they've been good, and everything they said was going to happen, happened, and there wasn't high traffic or noise or anything. Garbage pickup was the worst noise. So the landlord was good. My concerns lie in understanding what things will look like when they come in there. If I don't know, what will the noise be like, and what will the trucks really be like? And I did go down today to visit their site, and Mr. Armstrong was very gracious and showed me some things and pointed out their lots across the street. And so I'm just going to go around with my concerns in a haphazard way, because I didn't formalize this. I just made these notes. Okay, the 50/50 outside site where they're gonna store the generators, I don't really have an issue with that. I think if they put up a wooden fence there and close that in, that's a perfectly fine look, or put their pipes in there. My one question about that was, I didn't quite understand how everything's gonna fit in 50/50 when I see the conduit and the generators and whatever. And if it was a larger piece, I probably wouldn't care either, as long as it was fenced in and didn't cause trouble. My number one concern is the trucks now, and I got two issues. One, you know, they have trucks that come into their site from outside places. And that's what he described as the 3 UPS type trucks, and the other 2 would be semis. And, you know, a semi coming and going, 2 semis a day is not going to kill off our neighborhood. This is my understanding, so these have to be checked out. I would like all this very specific in writing, and not too many, what do I want to say, generalizations about it. I'd like to understand these trucks. But the other thing today that I learned is they have trucks. Just what I saw today, 1 van, 2, these all have the emblems, nice trucks, 3E, 2 UPS type trucks, 2 large trucks with large flatbeds, of which I know nothing about trucks, but they didn't look too great. And I'm glad the generators would be in the fence. They might stick up above the fence, though. I'm not sure about that. We should check it, because they were sitting around there. And if they were to be outside, it would be kind of trashy looking. And so I want to know how many trucks they own. And I want to know truthfully how many trucks come in and out of there. And I want to know, into the future, do they see this business expanding and adding trucks? Then I did see what you would never believe while walking my dog last week, 1 3E semi in my neighborhood. And anybody that's in my neighborhood, which is just 2 blocks up, is lost. Absolutely, because Murray's truck used to get lost up there. So I don't know if he was looking for the place or whatever, but he came out Marquette and he turned up to East Kimberly. Okay, then I'm kind of confused. I'm wondering, can we get copies of these slides from Public Works? Okay, just
I
email
think
or
we
something.
can arrange that.
Just send on the email. So I just like on your email, send them to you via email so you can print them.
Do we have your email? Can
Yes,
you, after the meeting,
yep.
can you give that to us, please?
You got it. Then I have concerns, since he mentioned residential rezoning of some kind. I want to fully understand what that could possibly mean. You know, right now we got a nice school and just housing. Okay, and did you say a car dealership could come in there? A dealership where they have foghorns and call for the people with this new type of zoning?
The new type of car sales, they have pagers or cell phones that they use. They don't have the old voice phone things anymore. But yeah, with a special use permit, there could be a car dealership there outside.
Okay, and that was one of the points.
If the zoning was approved and if someone came forward to propose that type of
Right.
use.
I didn't know that, but I remember from the last time, the neighborhood wasn't so upset about that, but it was one of the things that Murray's kept saying is, man, you should take us because you could get a car dealership in here. So obviously they must not be good. I've never lived by one, but that would be a point for the neighborhood. The neighborhood doesn't know enough or a lot right now, and it isn't riled up. It's, I think all my neighbors that live by there would be so happy to get a fence and some trees that they don't have the view of what this could be. Then also from in the past, dealing with the neighborhood, we used to talk about the bug place down there on the corner of Marquette and East Kimberly. And what they would say about that, they're very good neighbors, they're nice, but they have a lot of trucks and crap sitting around out there and it looks junky. And we sure hoped we wouldn't get another thing like that. And they've been there for years. And they're good neighbors, and they're good people, and I've used their service. But they do have trucks and things all out there. Now, let's see if I had anything else. I guess that's all. But you can tell I'm just trying to learn. I learned a few things from Scott and a few things from Mr. Armstrong. And I don't want to be a person that is just coming up here to crab and be anti-business. I am not. I even have a little place in that antique mall down there. So I'm for that building and I'm for customers. And I just don't want to see many trucks junky parked down there. And when we have 10 or 15 other trucks driving in every day, pickups and that, to pick up their stuff and move to their job. I want to be sure it's good for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else to speak? Either in for or against, or questions or comments? I will ask Belzer Ventures, is there anything you would like to offer in response to these public comments? It's not required, but anything you'd like to offer?
If I make one clarification, we don't own a semi. So if a semi is a tractor and a trailer, we don't own one. So I'm not sure what she saw or what logo she saw, but we don't own. The only thing we own are straight trucks, and we have one Ford F-450 flatbed. Is all that we have that was used for delivery. So I'm not sure about the semi, but that's not ours. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. If there is nothing else, I'll close the public hearing and indicate that this will be back before the commission at the next cycle. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have a question for you.
All right.
I was just wondering if we should say the date, but that's
Okay.
all right.
Because I missed the last one, so I'm trying to take it all in.
At this point, I'll convene the regular meeting of the Plan and Zone Commission. Roll call, Mr. Tallman.
Schneider.
Present.
Lammers. Johnson.
Present.
Tallman present. Ingram's excused. Hepner.
Here.
Bransgard.
Present.
Reinhardt. Manus.
Here.
And Garrington. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Tallman. Report of City Council activity, staff.
City Council did approve the amendment for the case REZ 20-09s for the realigning the comp plan to match the new rezoning for, that's the Sophie Foster property. So that has been approved.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to Secretary's report.
Move report.
Thank you. The consideration of the April 6, 2021 meeting minutes has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. Report of the Comprehensive Plan Committee.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Zoning activity. We have no old business. Under new business, we have one case, and I'll ask Mr. Hepner to read that, please.
Thank you, Ms. Chairwoman. Today we have case ORD 21-1, request of the City of Davenport to amend various sections of Title 17 of the Davenport City Code entitled Zoning. Staff recommends approval of the proposed amendments, and I so move.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for discussion, and staff, I'll ask if you have a report for us.
I do. Okay, so A lot of this will look familiar to those from the public hearing at the last meeting. Just to go over them, there are a few changes within our use matrix that changes proposed uses. The first one being removing bar as a special use in C1s, but replacing it with bar neighborhood, and then having a definition for that and a use standard that we'll go over in just a minute. We also are proposing removing drive-through as a special use in C1 and IMU. Removing two-family conversions as a special use in all of our R3 and R4 districts. Adding live performance venue to I1. Adding outdoor dining to SIC. Adding place of worship to I1 and IMU. Adding private recreation facility in commercial office space in I1. Adding vehicle repair major as a special use in C3. Removing vehicle repair minor as a special use in C1. And then this is for section 5 is our commercial design standards. So this is to give the ability to either pick the dwelling unit standards that are the principal use standards for dwellings or commercial design standards to add some flexibility to development. So bar neighborhood, this would be the use standards associated with it. There are 3 distinct geographic areas where they would be permitted in C1. Harrison Street from 14th Street to Locust Street, Washington Street from 14th to Locust, and West Locust from Fillmore to Division. It must have had a Class C license, which is an on-premise alcohol license, 10 years prior to July 1, 2021. And then to be eligible, they must reestablish by 2031, July 2031. So they basically have, if you were a bar within the last 10 years, you can reestablish as a bar in the next 10 years, and then it will sunset. So we also added this definition. It's just a bar that is eligible to reestablish. To add clarity to retail alcohol sales, we are proposing removing the word primarily from that definition. And then we are proposing putting in 3 conditions of an ordinance prior to the adoption of the code as a result of information we had received about a covenant that is in place on those properties. Largely that it limits the dwelling type on the back 8 lots on that property. And that's Park Place Apartments off of, it's like 56th and Eastern. And then this is a cleanup for our proposal of removing 2-family conversions from the R3 and R4 districts, replacing special use with prohibited. And then we did have the public input. It was published in the Quad City Times on April 6th. We have not, we've only had 1 public comment in the form of an email, which was attached to the report. And we have no one spoke at the public hearing at last cycle on April 6th. So staff recommends approval of the proposed amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the commission or comments from the commission? I see no one in the audience here in the courthouse. Is there anyone on the line who has a question or a comment for staff? Okay. Members of the commission, nothing to ask staff. All right, I will call the question then. Mr. Tallman.
Schneider.
Yes.
Lammers,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Tallman, yes. Hepner,
Yes.
Bransgard,
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes.
and Garrington.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioner Tallman. I show no old business or new business under subdivision activity. Future business.
Yep, we have a couple subdivisions that are going to be at our next meeting. So hopefully, we have some ones that were supposed to be on this agenda that weren't quite ready. So hopefully those will be on there. And then we will also have another public hearing for another rezoning on Elmore as well.
Okay. Any communications we should be aware of?
No, did we miss the elections?
Okay.
Oh, that's under other business. Okay, not there yet.
Okay,
I don't have any other communications at this time.
thank you. Our next item on our agenda would be election of officers. What is the pleasure of the commission?
Ms. Chairwoman,
Yes,
I would like to move to table to the next cycle.
okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second. This is Paul.
Okay, the motion to table and postpone our election of officers has been moved and seconded. Could I have a roll call, please, Mr. Tallman?
Ms. Chairwoman, I just wanted to discuss now with the
Just
rest of the
for
commission.
discussion, okay? I'll open discussion.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure the commission was on board for tabling for the next session.
I guess I'll ask for, it's been moved and seconded, so I'll ask if there's discussion from the commission.
So for clarification, that would be May 4th.
Yes.
Correct.
Do we have people interested in one of the positions other than who is currently there?
I'm sorry, I could not hear your question, Commissioner.
Lammers.
Langley. Do we have people interested in the chair, vice chair, and secretary positions other than the ones that currently hold the position?
Do any commission members or staff have a comment on that?
I received no communication from anyone on interest.
Ms. Chairwoman, I'd like to withdraw my table request and move to keep the slate of officers as written.
Okay.
And second?
Okay.
So we actually, we need to vote on the motion to table, and if it fails, then it dies.
All right. Let's have a roll call vote on the motion to table.
So again, just for clarification, a no vote is to go against the table. A yes vote would be to table.
Correct.
Schneider,
No.
Lammers,
No.
Johnson,
No.
Tallman, no. Hepner,
No.
Bransgard,
No.
Reinhardt,
No.
Garrington,
No.
and the motion fails.
Thank you. Okay, the motion to table has failed. Are there any other motions concerning the election of officers for the Plan and Zoning Commission?
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I move the re-election of all three officers.
All right, all right, that's been moved and seconded. The move was by Commissioner Garrington, I believe,
Yes.
and the second was by,
Commissioner Lammers?
Thank you, Commissioner Lammers. So it's been moved and seconded to re-elect our present chairperson, vice chairman, and secretary. I'll call the question on that and ask Mr. Commissioner Tallman to call the roll.
Schneider,
Yes.
Lammers,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Tallman, yes. Hepner,
Yes.
Ransgard,
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes.
and Garrington.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Commissioners, I believe that completes our agenda. Thank all of you very much. Do I hear another motion?
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded for adjourn. Thank you. See you next meeting.